Yeah, definitely. You think about the addition of Kristaps Porzingis coming back because the Celtics are still a good team, even if Horford's playing those main center minutes. But Porzingis just pretty much adds a whole new dynamic to this team. The Celtics have never had a guy like Porzingis, a guy who was seen as the number one option for when he was originally in New York, and then when he was paired up with Luca, he was seen as the second best player, and then he goes to Washington and he kind of gets his confidence back and is able to showcase that he can still play ball. And then you put him on this team, and he's probably like your third best player now, or somewhere in that 3 to 4 range, however you would like to say it. But just having the luxury of having that guy as your third option, like that's just something that's hard to match up with if you have a roster of the Dallas Mavericks and you talk about their defensive schemes and how it was able to work against a Minnesota, against a Oklahoma City, and against a Clippers who didn't have that overpowering size. They were more of a finesse team, and you have more athletes. It's just hard to really tell what kind of advantage you have. You do have the best player in this matchup with Luca, and he's shown to do what he
Oh yeah,
can
they
do.
do.
But you're seeing Kyrie kind of struggle with just the size across the board. And you talk about how when Luca and Kyrie are able to break their guy down, the Mavericks are usually the team that can get those bigs, those easy lobs at the basket. And you haven't really seen that just simply because you can't break that primary defender down at a consistent basis. Even Luca, even though he is scoring, a lot of those are turnaround fades in the mid range, post up, where you're shooting over top of guys. He's hitting a lot of pull up threes off the screen. It's not a lot of getting down to the basket, breaking the defense, forcing a rotation, and getting that big free that's not going to really be able to create their own shot. And you look on the other side of the ball, they're not able to really shut off the paint how they would like to because one, the guys are able to space you out, and two, even if you do force them to take threes, that's the type of shot that the Celtics are looking for anyways. Like they take a lot of threes and they make a lot of threes. So when you just look at it from a matchup standpoint, a roster standpoint, a talent standpoint, they're just at a disadvantage at each spot you really look at. And what you're really just gonna have to hope for is for your offense to play better, figure out ways to get Kyrie going because I think you can score with this Celtics team just because you have those two guys that can get going. You know, they can put up like 70 plus points together, which is always going to give you a chance in any game. Defensively, you're just going to have to hope the Celtics shoot kind of how they shot tonight. You know,
Yeah.
you're just going to have to hope that they miss and hope that they get a little careless with things. You think about Tatum, he hasn't had really what you would call a quote unquote great game from a scoring standpoint. Jaylen Brown hasn't broke 25 or 30, or I don't even know if he's broke 25. I think he was still under 25 in that first game,
Yeah.
even though the buckets felt like he had more than that. But like that's just another thing. Like you're getting scoring from across the board from Drew Holiday. He was the guy tonight. Derek White, Kristaps Porzingis, and Tatum and Brown, and they're all going to provide you things on both ends of the court. So, yeah, it's a tough task. And weirdly, I still feel like Dallas can get 2 games. I think they can get one at home. I think they can steal one on the road. But one thing I'm impressed with Boston is that they haven't shown that typical, lack mindset that where we see them sometimes look kind of out of it or kind of just walking through or going through the motions. They seem real determined. They seem real locked in, and you just see them playing together. And if as long as they're able to play their game, which they're able to play pretty much any time because they can score from inside and out, you do feel like they should secure this series.
Yeah, and I think we have to give a lot of credit to Brad Stevens because he really did a great job putting this roster together. You think of the moves he made this summer, getting Porzingis, getting Drew Holiday, and you know, a lot of teams could have gotten those players. So it's a big plus for this team to have as much talent as they do, as much cohesion as they do, and it just manifests in this situation where they just have so many advantages in this matchup, like we were talking about. You talked about the mismatches with Porzingis. I think that's been a really interesting thing to watch, especially in this series because of how he came back in game one. He missed like what 30 days of play, right? And
Yeah.
he came back into the NBA finals on the biggest stage and put up that performance. So it's just interesting to watch how this whole thing works with the Boston Celtics, right? And the cohesion that they have and this roster that they've constructed and how it shows up on the court in terms of it's just not many teams in the league that can match up with them.